So the question is,
What's the question?
should men be expected to cover 100% of the bills?
I believe if men are claiming to be providers, and we know that means to take care of whoever's under you, that he should provide 100%. While we're doing this gives the woman time and space, not just to be great for the man, but also great for the children. And I want to use myself for example. I provide 100% for my woman. My son, he's only 5 years old, and he was tested 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, 2 days ago. He's only in kindergarten, but he tested at a 4th grade level. Why is that? Because I handle my responsibility, providing, and providing isn't just financial. Any man off the street can walk to a woman and give her money. Providing is elevating a woman mentally, elevating a woman spiritually, emotionally. This is what it means to provide for a woman. Not just, here's some money, run off with it. No. Let me elevate you. Let me bring you closer to your God. Let me set standards in your life. If your father gave you to me, you are my responsibility from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head. I'm gonna love everything about you, 100%. And if I can't do that, I'm not a man. I'm a male, and that's a difference.
I'm so glad that he brought up that being a provider isn't just financial. It's about providing comfort, safety, emotional support. But I have to vehemently disagree that if you don't pay all the bills, then that doesn't make you a man. What is that? What is a man? To me, a man is someone who protects, provides, leads, takes accountability and responsibility. Whether you pay all the bills or not is irrelevant because like he said, being a provider isn't just financial. You can provide in many ways. Paying bills is just one of them.
Go ahead, brother.
And so now we're going to add nuance. Now we're going to add context. So first thing we have to do is we have to ask ourselves the question, what does it mean to be a man? Because being manly has nothing to do with a woman. It has nothing to do with pandering. It has nothing to do with just providing. Being a man means being purposeful. That's what being a man is.
Yeah.
That means that whatever it is that I seek from God, because my purpose is not a woman is a helpmeet. So when he panders to you guys, and ladies, remember, I don't know what he's selling. I don't know what product that he has, but my goal is to get you married. My goal is to have you married based off of what God says is sanctified, right? I don't want y'all divorced. I don't want you unequally yoked. I don't want you to be a single baby mama. I don't want you shooting your shot in the dark thinking that this guy is giving you insight when he's just giving you talking points with no real substance behind it. And here's the context. At what age do you want to be married? Do you put yourself in a position to find the person that's best for you? Has your father given you away? Does your parents actually see value in the person that is looking to marry you? And when you start to ask yourself these questions, and I don't speak to just rich people because we both have money, we both have resources. So let's remove that from the table. I speak to the majority, not the minority. And when you are 20, 21, 22 years old, especially if you are a person that's looking to become a man, you are supposed to fail in controlled environments, meaning that your father is not even supposed to give you everything. He's supposed to give you what you need in order to be successful. My father was able to buy me a car, but he told me that I had to earn it and work for it because I valued it more, which then extended to every single thing that I touch, including the woman. See, my wife is here. My wife travels with me. She knows me. She understands me, right? And so at 20, 21, 22 years old, you're supposed to be broke. Unless you're doing something that you ain't supposed to do in order to get it, you're supposed to be building. You're supposed to be understanding each other. It's a storming, a norming, a forming situation. And in no circumstance do you ever come into it fully understanding who the person is, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman.
Yeah, I gotta agree. When you're this big time podcaster and you're out here giving advice to people, that advice should be applicable to most people. And I don't think that most men can afford to pay all the bills. The median income for Americans is about $60,000. But the kicker is most men don't reach that level until they're about 30, 35. So you're telling me that men can't court a woman until they're about 30, 35? That's a long time to be on the sidelines. It's not realistic to expect a man in his 20s to be making $60,000 and paying all the bills. Sadly, most men in their 20s are struggling just to support themselves. And it's really not that uncommon to see men in their 30s with a roommate situation because rent is just too damn high.
And so when we start to look at what God has ordained to be great, the purpose of a man, it's not just to give spirituality and leadership. It's to understand. The first thing that the word says, in everything that you do, you get understanding. And everything you do, you get understanding. I don't even know her. I don't even know you. Everybody is out here dating, everybody running around, everybody doing everything. They're giving themselves to each other. We think that money or resources or what you can do or what you can offer a person is supposed to make up for all of the insecurities and the problems and the issues that you have in your childhood. What have you solved for? Right? Do you have problems in your childhood? Do you even have a father? Do you know what it means to be a man? It's a lot of women that's raising men to be feminine because they're in single parent households, right? How does that look? What does it look like when you get into a situation with a woman that has a child out of wedlock already and then she still has to deal with the father? How do you deal with that? See, these are the questions that he can't answer for you because the only thing he talks about is pandering. I'm talking about context. I'm talking about substance. I'm talking about spirituality. I'm talking about praying together. I'm talking about building. You're supposed to get married when you're young because it prevents you from sinning and finding yourself with all of these bodies and these soul ties that ultimately carry with you for the rest of your life. And then you start to see every single man and you can't take it out of your memory with the person that you wind up being with. Most women have skipped over the man that they're supposed to be with because they didn't have the guidance, because they didn't have the spirituality. They don't know the word of God. And so it's easy to just say, oh yeah, just provide 100%. What happens when life happens and you're 22, 23, 24 years old and you get married? The economy messed everybody up. Everybody that thought that they had it, guess what? You got a plan and then God has a plan. What happened to the character? Why you don't talk about character?
Hold on, and Anton, just
Why he don't, no, hold on. Why he don't talk about character? Because when I teach my daughter, I'm a reflection of the man that I would want my daughter to marry. I don't tell my daughter to go and look for a guy to provide for her. I tell my daughter to go and look for a guy that's believing in God, that has good character, that actually worships and looks for and focuses on his purpose because everything else falls in line. The money is going to come. We so busy chasing money. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. You don't have to chase money. You don't have to look to women to provide for them, because if you're naturally that, if you're raised up in the admonition of your father, which is what God has ordained for you to do, you don't have to worry about that. That's naturally in you. And so, yes, absolutely, she should be purposeful. And her purpose at that time could be raising the children, depending on if y'all got children. Her purpose at that time could be out there and bringing in resources because she's learning a new skill that can then translate into the company that y'all build together. It's a lot of nuance and a lot of context, but I hate it when people pander to women because they leading y'all astray. And it sounds like I'm a harsh father. It sounds like it's a difficult situation. It sounds like you're just supposed to be given everything. But if that's the case, then why are we as a society, why are we as a people, as black people in particular, so far behind, and we further behind than we ever been, even though we the freest and we have the opportunity to choose for ourselves? This isn't God. Ain't none of this what he talking about God right now. And I ain't even studied him. I ain't even getting started. I'm gonna let you cook. Go ahead.
Well,
Oh, Anton was going in right there. He was making some good points. There's going to be a lot of women missing out on good men because they're so worried about getting their bills paid. And also there's going to be a lot of men missing out on good women because they're too busy focused on the money. Now, I already know what you guys are going to say. But if you follow the money, won't the women follow you? Absolutely. But don't get caught up in Yada's rhetoric thinking that you can't seriously date someone until you reach a certain financial goal. Because that woman that you meet while you're grinding, if she's a real one, she will help push you towards your goal. And on top of that, because you met her before your success, you know that she truly loves you for you and not for what you have achieved.
Wait, but I want clarity before we move on.
Go ahead,
because when we talk about should men pay 100% of the bills, I'm assuming that means based on the context that you just gave.
It's based
that
off
men-
of your circumstance and situation. Everyone is different, and nobody is a monolith.
My brother.
Nobody is
My
a
brother.
monolith.
Okay,
I
let's go, Yada.
love how he put so much passion into his words. But when God created man, God gave man a purpose. And what was the purpose? What was the purpose? He placed that man in a garden. What's this? That's a tree. What's this? Those are clouds. What's that? That's a sky. What's that? That's a bear.
That's not what happened.
Listen to
You don't
me.
even know the
Man,
word of
listen
God.
to me.
You don't even know the word of
Listen
God,
to
but
me,
I'm gonna let you
brother.
cook.
Listen to me. And when God, seeing that he was fit to represent himself as a man, he put him to rest. And from that rib, he took Eve. Now, this is a fact. Now we have to understand, what does it mean when you create a woman from the rib? What is a rib? A rib protects the internal organs, the heart and the rib. If the rib is mishandled, it fractures, it breaks. And what does that do to the man? It leaves him vulnerable. It leaves him hurt. But if a man handles this rib, protects this rib, uplifts this rib, guides this rib, loves this rib, this woman is able to become something greater than what she was created, which uplifts the man himself. So God gave a man responsibility before he gave him a woman. He didn't say, here's Adam and here's Eve. He said, here's Adam and here's a responsibility. And then when God was seeing that he was fit to be considered a man and a head, which God is the head of man and man is the head of woman, he then gave God Eve. And then what happened, brother? And then what happened?
You tell me. Because I'm going to add the context. I want you to
No,
finish.
we can go in deep. If you want chapters,
you to
whatever, we can do this. But I need every young man listening to me that was raised in a home without a father. Young girls that was raised in homes without fathers. Your mother is divine greatness. Your mother is beautiful. I don't care what no man says about you, your mother, or where you can go. Strive to elevate. Strive to become the best version you are before you get into a relationship, so you don't have to drag a woman through the same things your fathers did to your mothers. Love yourself enough to provide for yourself. So when you get into a relationship with a woman, you don't have to abandon her or drag her through your turmoils. All praises is completely due to the Most High. Go ahead, my brother.
Man, Yada would make for a great preacher. But I get what Yada's saying about the woman being the man's responsibility. I agree with that. However, taking responsibility isn't just about paying all the bills. There's levels and degrees to taking responsibility. Which begs the question, how much authority does this man have in this relationship? How much authority is the woman willing to give up? Responsibility without authority is slavery. Authority without responsibility is tyranny. So I haven't watched a lot of Yada's content, but I am curious to know, like, what's his thoughts on a woman giving 100% authority to the man. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments if you heard Yada ever talk about that in his videos. But to me, that's the only way it makes sense. If I'm taking 100% of the responsibility, then the man needs 100% of the authority. They go into debate the story of Adam and Eve and who bore the brunt of responsibility when it came to eating the forbidden fruit. At the end of the day, they both disobeyed God. They both ate from the forbidden fruit. So to me, they're both at fault. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip over all of that. Next, they're going to get into advice for men who are still on the come up.
I think it's really important for us to give context to the brother who is on the come up, because I know a lot myself of brothers at different levels. I have a vast friend group here in Atlanta of brothers who's, from a financial perspective, they've already made it, and other brothers who are absolutely ambitious. They're in masterminds, they invest in themselves, but they have not really quite arrived at that place where they feel in this economy that they can really provide for the family at the level that they want, at the vision that they want, but they also may still have a lady that they love or that they're building with. Is it a good idea? Because I really want to give the men some game here. Should men take on a woman that they feel like they love and is an asset before he is capable and ready to 100% provide?
What do you mean by, let me ask just a little bit more context.
Yeah.
What do you mean by is an asset?
Well, he feels like she has the qualities of a good wife.
Because I believe that every woman can be an asset. But I'm wondering, in the context of your question, what do you mean by that?
As she has the qualities to become a wife and his long-term partner that he can deal with.
So the woman that I'm assuming the woman that a gentleman is serious about.
Absolutely.
Should he take her on? If
So
he can't
should he jump into this? Okay, I'm just going to summarize it, because I'm a C student, I'm slow, he's smarter than me. Should he get into a relationship with this woman even though he can't provide 100%? Is that what you're
100%,
asking?
yes.
Okay, all right, I got you. Is that a question for me?
Actually,
First?
how about this? I want to actually hear from God on this one, because I'm not sure who's
because I think we're trying to clarify: is it should that be the goal to pay 100%, or should that be the standard even prior to getting into a relationship?
You're saying should it be the goal or the standard? What do you mean? Break it down a bit.
So you change.
Break it down a little bit for me.
So go ahead, Tom. I want to make sure we ask the
I
same
don't want
question.
to change the question. I want to make sure we're clear on the question. The question is simply, if we have a brother who is not ready to 100% provide at this point in his life and time, should he seriously be looking to pursue, marry, and build with a woman?
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Or let me just add one more piece of context. Okay. Does it matter how old he is? How old is this guy that's asking this question? Because if you're 40, I think it's a completely different conversation.
Okay.
Than if you're 20.
Yeah.
Well, let's
how
say
about this?
between
Give
30
me-
and 40.
Give me the context on the different age groups. You can wrap that all into your answer when you contextualize your response.
Let him go.
I believe
Go ahead.
that, again, I think that if you're 20, marriage it's a multi-purpose construct, right? It's not just for love. I look at marriage as a business also. As a matter of fact, I also look at marriage as a business first. It doesn't mean that it absolves you from love, but I absolutely look at it as a business. On top of that, it's also supposed to prevent you from sinning, right? One of the things that I advocate against is people doing married people things without, and again, you got to come from the perspective that I look at this through the lens of a Christian, right? So I'm saying that a lot of times people want to jump head first into sex out of wedlock, children out of wedlock, so on and so forth. And I believe that absolves you from that. And it also gives you a greater purpose and responsibility because you now have to shepherd over somebody other than yourself. And generally, especially men, most men, you're supposed to care more about the people around you. And that's why even when you're trying to solve for something or even when you're trying to be successful, they tell you to think about somebody other than yourself, because sometimes if you do it just for you, you won't care. But if you're doing it for your daughter, if you're doing it for your son, if you're doing it for people that's outside of you, even your mother or your father, when you add people into that equation, a lot of times you'll be a lot more purposeful and you'll be a lot more dedicated, consistent, so on and so forth. So if you're solving for sin, if you're solving for also wanting to be successful, but understanding that it's an exchange for strengths for weaknesses, because it's not just one way, right? Women do add value into the conversation, and you're 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, you're supposed to be broke. Relatively, I mean, compared to what me and him have, you're supposed to be broke. You're not going to be making $200, $300, $400, $1 million, $2 million a year. That's just a fact, unless you're doing something that you're not supposed to do. So at that age, I absolutely advocate for people to get married, and I also believe that it's best for people that have less resources to get married because it's a quicker way to build wealth. The goal ultimately should always be to where you can release her from doing the things that normal women would do that are single, as far as having to provide and protect themselves. But at the same time, I also think that there's nuance in that, because if you're in a relationship with somebody that's early in there and you got it from scratch, I think that she has equity in what you do. If you're a 40, 50-year-old man, I think you need to probably get yourself together before you decide that you want to bring a woman into your space and you can't provide. And that's the context. I think that when you're older, if you've been playing video games and you've been doing the same thing over and over again and you don't have the results, you need to go and study your word. You need to get in your Bible. You need to dedicate yourself. You need to get a coach. You need to figure out what life is like. So at that point, I don't think that you should be in a relationship.
So
I kind of jumped ahead on this topic, but as I mentioned before, the median income in the U.S. is $60,000. Now, $60,000, if you're living by yourself, is pretty good money. And I know it depends on where you live, but $60,000 to provide for an entire family is just not enough. Anton does bring up a good point that the best way to accumulate wealth is by getting married and or combining resources. It's just easier to get through life when you have a helpmate. According to the National Institute of Health, how much more married people make compared to their peers depends on gender and education, but it ranges from 4% to 32%. And that's where a lot of women mess up, because they want to wait for a finished product instead of helping build with the man. Ladies, that man who is 25 making six figures is either already taken or has no intentions of settling down because he's living his best life.
And here's the rest of the context, though. Because I think that in society, and we live in this social media culture, that everybody thinks that you're supposed to live in a mansion. Everybody thinks that you're supposed to have a high-rise condo, right? You can provide 100%, especially if you have children, but are you willing to lower your lifestyle in order to build successfully and then add value and the assets that will ultimately make you rich in the future, right?
That's a good point.
It's so much nuance, there's so much context to this, and it depends on where you at in your life. It depends on what you're studying. It depends on what your family structure is like. It depends on if you come from money and resources, right? All of those things matter, and I think that there is no one right answer. It depends on the circumstance, and everybody's circumstance is different.
there we have it. Okay, Yada, we're going to give you a chance to respond here.
I love the way you articulate yourself. It's very beautiful. But being well-traveled, I've seen men provide 100% without having so much. And like the brother said, as long as they're staying within their standards, I don't think a man should get into a relationship with a woman until he knows he's able to handle all responsibilities by himself, just in case that woman leaves him. Because if you're in a relationship with a woman and you're living with a woman and she's paying half and you're paying half and she leaves you, what are you going to do? Lose everything you have, your car, your home? A man has to be able to provide for himself and another comfortably before he entertains a woman.
See, the key word there is comfortable. Yes, you can provide for a family making $50,000, $60,000 a year, because plenty of families do, but most of those families are struggling. If you're making $60,000 a year, I'm sure you can afford a nice little apartment. But if you and your partner are making $60,000 and you guys combine your resources, now you guys can afford to buy a home. It really depends on the couple and what lifestyle they want to live. You can choose to live off one income, but now that has significantly reduced your lifestyle because you're living off of one income instead of two. That's a discussion that every couple should have before they seriously get into a relationship.
Just speaking on the financial part, a man needs to make sure he's spiritually whole, mentally whole, emotionally whole. Because if he's coming from America and coming from certain backgrounds, majority of the time they're scarred. Even if they were raised in home with two parents, they're scarred and they're battling some form of childhood trauma. And men, we get so caught up in our ego and our pride, we tend to bleed on the person that's right next to us, forgetting this person's on our team. Now we're stressed out because we can't pay the bills like we should. She's fussing at us. Now what we do? We drinking more, we smoking more, we trying to run away from the truth, we're trying to run away from our children. Brothers, if you're listening to me and you didn't have the proper father in your life, please, I beg you, take care of yourself, love yourself, provide for yourself, spend the first 5 years of your adulthood working on becoming the man that you need to be so you can get the woman you want and not the woman you settled for. Because a lot of men are getting into relationships with women they're settling for because they can't get the woman that they truly want. Now they're misusing this woman, abusing this woman, children come, they leave this woman. Most men that leave women because they weren't properly good with them, they didn't love them, they couldn't connect to them on all levels. They got a woman that took them at the level which they were on, and the woman that they truly wanted, they're not gonna look at them. So all I'm saying to my brothers, and I love what Antoine, I don't disagree when he said family is business. No, man, for sure, it's business. But brothers, please take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, financially. Make sure you're talking to counselors. Make sure you're dealing with childhood trauma, especially if you were raised in homes with abusive fathers, either verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, or physically abusive, or you didn't have a father whatsoever. Spend this time in your adulthood loving on yourself, protecting yourself, leading yourself, and guiding yourself. So when you do find a woman that you love, you don't break her. Women can't endure what we endure. They can't do it. And when a man is building on the come up, we pour so much hurt onto our women because men get stressed out. When we trying to build, we get stressed out. To get to where me and Antoine's at, we put a lot of work in, and it came with a lot of pain. It wasn't peaches and creams and kumbayas. It's, I gotta figure this out. What's going on? And sometimes the woman right next to us gets this attitude, gets this aggression, not because we don't love them, but they're right next to us, so we're bleeding on them without meaning to. And we're blessed to have women, because I believe your wife was with you when you come up, right?
Absolutely. I've known her since
they were able to endure the men till we got to this level, because I wasn't this man 10, 20 years ago. But I had to go through so much to become this man, from trial and error. And I'm just blessed to have a woman that's able to endure it. A lot of women don't have the endurance for that. And a man should never bleed on his woman if he says he loves her. Brothers, please heal. Heal yourselves first, and then get into a relationship with a woman.
There you have, so
I understand what Yada is saying, but I think it's unrealistic to say a man should never bleed on his woman. And I understand you don't want to bleed on your woman, but most men are going to struggle. Most men are going to go through hard times. Do you really think you're going to go throughout your entire marriage and not experience some type of pain or hardship? I just don't believe women are so fragile that they can't stick with a man through hard times. And that's why married men succeed at a higher rate than single men, because they have a woman to help support them, to help uplift them. As Anton mentioned earlier, age is a factor. And Yada touched on this too when he said, in the first 5 years of adulthood, you should grind and work on yourself. I don't disagree with that. But also, if you happen to find a real one along the way, you shouldn't necessarily push her off to the side just because you're not where you want to be financially yet. Many Americans won't hit financial stability until they're in their 30s. That's a long time to put off a relationship when a partner can bring stability, consistency, and someone to rely on. You guys can be a pillar in both each other's lives. To his point about trauma, all of us are dealing with some type of trauma of some kind. I don't think any of us are ever truly healed. It's all about how you deal with that trauma. Now, if you're being verbally and physically abusive and you're taking out your anger and insecurities on the people around you, then of course you should not be in a relationship. You need to go and work on yourself. And let's say at the beginning of the relationship, you're not dealing with any type of intense trauma, and then something happens in your life like losing a loved one, and now you have this trauma that you have to deal with. Does that mean you now have to exit this relationship because you're dealing with this trauma? I don't know. I don't think so. This was a good debate. This comes from the Hardly Initiated channel. I suggest you guys go over there and watch the full video. I think Yada made some good points, but overall, I agree with Anton. There are way too many nuances and variables to say men should pay 100% of the bills, full stop. I do believe it should be every man's goal to pay 100% of the bills for his woman. But just because a man doesn't get to that point in life, I don't think that should negate him from having a partner, nor do I think that makes him any less of a man. And you have to think that some women will want to contribute to the bills so both of you guys can live a better lifestyle. All right, I'll go ahead and stop it there. Please let me know, what points did you agree with? What points did you disagree with? Leave your comments below and let me know what you thought. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And if you got anything out of this video, hit that like button. This is Agree to Disagree. I'm out.